Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Yejia, and on this channel we do a lot of crochet, styling, etc, etc. If you're interested in that and you're new here, make sure to click the subscribe button. And yeah, let's get started on today's video. So today I am making our Halloween costumes. Basically, I've been getting a lot of requests to recreate Twice's concert fits from, I think, their London stage on their Ready to Be tour. It's basically these beautiful crocheted flower sets from this brand. I can't remember the name of the brand off the top of my head, so I'll insert it here. So I'm heavily inspired by this brand's crochet sets. I think they're stunning. And so basically my idea is that I am going to be a sexy flower. And because I have a partner and I have a dog, for my partner, I thought he can just be like a gardener, you know, because we all need to be in theme, of course. But for him, I just want to make it easy. I think I'll just slap an apron on him and call it a day. Maybe I'll make like an extra little flower for him to wear, almost like as a boutonniere, you know. But for my dog, I thought it would be really, really cute for him to be a little bumblebee, and I want to crochet his little costume and kind of show you how I create that. So far, I've already started working on one of the wings. This video is going to be kind of a mixture of like my crochet vlog and crochet tutorial. I'm going to try to teach you as much as I can as I go, but I haven't made any of these things yet so far, so I'm really just kind of like freestyling it. I don't know. So yeah, wish me luck. Okay, so I'm gonna show you how I make the wing of the bumblebee costume first, because that's the only thing I actually have figured out. And so for that, I'm going to be using some acrylic yarn that I just have like as a leftover. So yeah, this is just an acrylic, I think probably just DK, so like weight 4 yarn. And I'm gonna go ahead and use this with, I was about to panic, I thought I lost my hook. Okay, so I have a 4mm hook. I am gonna start off by making a magic ring. You're gonna hold it like this, cross over just like so, insert your hook into the ring, pull up, and then from here I'm gonna chain 3. Go 1, 2, 3. And also, I think to note, I have a stitch marker like on hand, just so I can keep track of my stitches pretty well. Okay, anyways, I am gonna go ahead and do, I think, 12 double crochets into my ring. So I'm gonna yarn over and then pull up a loop, pull through 2 loops, pull through 2. So I'm going to do that 11 more times. And also as I go, I'm going to make sure to kind of pull on my end in order to close that gap. So I've made 12 double crochets and I'm just tightening up my end. So after creating 12 double crochets, I'm going to go into the top of the chain that I made, the 3 chains in the beginning, and just slip stitch that together so that I've kind of closed up this circle. And then from here, I am going to work 2 double crochets into every double crochet stitch I have. And then from here, I'm actually going to go ahead and also mark out where my first double crochet of this row is. Okay, so now I should have worked 24 stitches all around. And then I'm going to go ahead and remove that stitch marker. And now I'm going to do 2 double crochets into this first guy. So 1, 2, and then in the next one I'm just going to do 1 double crochet. So I've got 3, and then I'm going to go ahead and make sure I am marking out that stitch. And then in the next one I'm going to do 2. And the next one I'm going to do 1. So this row is just a repeat of 2 double crochets in 1 stitch, and then in the next stitch you do 1. Okay, so I've gone ahead and I finished that row, which leaves me with 36 stitches total. And I'm going to go ahead and remove that stitch marker, and I'm going to go into that stitch and give myself 2. So 1, 2. And then again, I'm gonna mark out where that first stitch is. And then this time around, I'm gonna do 1 double crochet, and then another double crochet, and then 2. So essentially, like every row you are adding, like just 1. Does this make any sense? I feel like I'm not making any sense. Essentially, like the last row, we did 2 double crochets, like aka we did an increase, and then we did just a standard 1 double crochet to 1 stitch. And then we did an increase, and then no increase, increase, no increase, right? So that's how we did the last row. And then this one, we are doing the increase, no increase, no increase, increase, no increase, no increase, increase. So like every row, you're gonna have 1 more of the no increase in between the increases. So if that didn't make any sense, I'm really sorry. I did say like I'm freestyling this video, so essentially I started off with 2 double crochets in 1 stitch, and then just 1 double crochet, 1 double crochet, 2 double crochets in a stitch, and then 1 double crochet, 1 double crochet, and then now I've arrived to creating another increase. So 1, 2. This next row is going to be a total of 60 stitches, which essentially means that you're going to do the 2 double crochets, 1 double crochet, 1 double crochet, 1 double crochet, and then 2 double crochets, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 1. Right? Okay. Here is the star of the show. He is our little bumblebee. He just got a bath, and I still need to brush out his fur, so he's looking a little messy. My idea for his bumblebee costume is to make it as easy on him as possible, so that he'll actually want to wear it. And so essentially, it's just going to be like a layer up here, and then I'm probably just going to use like a snap fixture on the bottom and just like 1 strap underneath. Hi, sorry, I know I'm disturbing your midday nap. But my dog, from side to side, he is measuring just about 10 inches, and then lengthwise I want to go 11 to 12 inches. So yeah, I'm just gonna start creating a little black and yellow coat for him. I'm gonna go ahead and give myself a knotless slip knot and start chaining. And I don't really actually know how much to chain quite yet. And I am using a cotton light DK or weight 3 yarn. And my 4mm hook. So I have 42 chains on right now, and I think that that's gonna be a good length for him. This is like to go like across his body. And so essentially I'm going to be working 40 stitches across. I just have 2 for my turning chain. So then I'm gonna go into the backs of the back loops of my stitches, slightly turning my work, going into the back, and just doing half double crochets, which is a yarn over, and then you wrap around again, and then you pull through all 3 at once. So yeah, I'm just gonna keep making half double crochets and I'll check back with you once I figure out my next step. Okay, so that is my finished first row. It measures just about 10 inches. And then I'm going to use 2 chains as turning chains. Turn my work and then just go in. I'm just doing a very standard half double crochet stitch. Okay, so I have completed 3 rows of my black yarn using HDC, just pretty standard stitch. In order to make my color change, what I'm gonna do is I actually there's a couple different ways you can do color changes and carry your different colors of yarn throughout your project. I don't want to carry my black yarn all the way through. So what I'm gonna do instead is I'm gonna make a little slip knot with my yellow yarn. And so I've pretty much set up the HDC stitch for the very last stitch. So essentially I'll take that back out. I'm on my last stitch, so I've yarned over, I've inserted my hook into the stitch, and I've pulled up a loop. What I'm gonna do is I'm actually going to trim off my yarn now at this point, leaving myself a few inches just so that I can kind of weave it in easier. And then here I'm going to take my slip knot that I've made with my yellow yarn and put it on my hook, and then go through and sort of finish out that HDC stitch, the last one of this row, using your yellow yarn. And so now you can start using your yellow yarn, chain 2, turn your work. And then from here as well, what I'm gonna do is weave in these ends as I go. So I'm gonna take my yellow yarn and my black yarn, the ends that I have here, and sort of hold them together and hold them kind of on top of my stitches, and then go through my first stitch here, and I'm gonna work around the yarn. And this way, you can totally carry your yarn all the way through if you don't want to trim it off and rejoin, etc., etc. But I think when you do that, you do kind of have, unless you're working with a super dense stitch, you do have the other yarn kind of show up in the other strips that you create. And I personally don't really want that, because I do want really clean lines between the yellow and the black. And also because this is kind of a shorter project, I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal to sort of just trim off as I go and rejoin. But yeah, you can see that this is now joining in very nicely, and you're covering up this yarn as well. And yeah, you get to just kind of weave your ends in as you go anyways. So yeah, but I think I'm actually going to undo this row that I started because I want to create basically the strap that'll go underneath Teddy and sort of snap it together. I think that this is gonna be the portion that's gonna be best, and I want to use a black yarn because he's a dog and dogs get gross, and I feel like the black yarn would probably be the best bet for that. So I'm gonna go ahead and undo this work until I get to where I started chaining. Okay, so I went ahead and measured it out on him, and I think I'm gonna actually do 25 chains in total, so I'm working 23 stitches because 2 of the chains are turning chains. And then I'm gonna go and turn my work and skip the first 2 chains, and then working kind of into the back of my chains here. Gonna go ahead, and he's a little cranky because I woke him up from his nap. So he's kind of barking outside, but I am just gonna go ahead and chain all the way back to I get to, you know, the actual row, half double crochet all of this. So I've reached, so essentially like as a check-in, I have the strap that's gonna go underneath Ted, and then I've reached the very end of this row. And I'm going to start making another like strap out here. What I like to do is basically create half double crochets as I make this chain. So instead of doing a chain and then working back through it, because I want to like keep this line of stitches. This is in essence like the same type of concept as like creating a foundation half double crochet chain. So I'm going to wrap my yarn once, and then I'm going to go into sort of like the stitch here. I'm going to go through not only this first one but also the back one. Making sure I'm going through 2 strands of yarn right there. And then I'm going to yarn over, and I'm going to pull up a loop. I'm going to pull up another loop just through that loop that I had, yarn over and pull through all 3. So that's one chain, and then I'm going to yarn over. I'm going to go ahead and put my hook through that extra loop up that I did. So I'm gonna go in and under, and then I'm going to pull up a loop, pull up another loop, and then go through all 3. So again, going in, pull up a loop, pull up a loop, and pull through all 3. If that's really confusing to you, you can go ahead and look up like how to do like a foundation half double crochet. That's essentially what I'm doing. But yeah, I'm just gonna keep repeating this and creating my rows of half double crochet. Okay, so essentially I have made 2 stripes. This is 3 rows, 5 rows, 3 rows. But this one has little straps coming off of it in order to like snap on for Ted. And then I've got 5 rows, and then I've got 3 rows of the black. Sort of in order to like make the end here, I actually kind of want to round it out because I just think that that would be a cute little detail. You could totally just finish this off by using just like the same old and make it like a rectangular panel. I think that would be fine as well, but I'm kind of feeling this idea of like adding a semicircle to the end of it, just because I think that that would be a cuter finish. And so I'm gonna go ahead and start off with my yellow yarn, making a magic ring. And I'm going to give myself chain 3, so 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to make, so I made 6 double crochets into my ring. I'm going to tighten that up so you kind of see it sort of folding over, circling over, I don't really know. And then I'm going to go ahead and chain 3, so 1, 2, 3, kind of turn my work. And then I'm going to work 2 double crochets into each stitch. Okay, so this is end of row 2, at which point I have 12 stitches, and she's looking like a lemon slice. Now I'm going to chain 3, turn my work, and then I'm going to do 2 double crochets. It's a really similar process to how I made the wing, honestly. So I'm going to do 2 double crochet, and then only 1, and then 2 double crochet, and then only 1. Okay, so that's the end of that row, and that is 18 stitches total. So then 1, 2, 3, I'm ready to turn my work and work back through here. And if you remember from the wing, it's basically that I make an increase and then I do regular, just one double crochet, then increase, one double crochet, increase, until basically this is like big enough to get to end. So yeah. Actually, one thing that I am going to go ahead and do is I'm gonna put a stitch marker through the middle stitch of this row. I'm gonna go ahead and continue increasing my semicircle. And then if you ever get lost while doing this, basically every increase should be increased by 6 double crochets. So my first row is 6, second row is 12, third row is 18, the fourth row should be 24, the next row should be 30, so on and so forth. So yeah, I will see you when I am done with this semicircle, and I'll tell you how much I did. In order to connect this, I've gone ahead and used my stitch marker to count out like the middle of my black band and attached it to the middle of my semicircle. And from here, I am going to chain 1. And I'm gonna start going into the sides of my stitches on my semicircle. The one thing that I will note is that I always kind of recommend that you try to go under 2 strands of yarn whenever you're connecting things like this, just because I find that only doing it under 1 kind of leaves for an awkward gap. Not the biggest deal in the world, but like, you know, something to note. And then I'm going to start actually going to the second stitch on my black band here. I'm going into the second stitch. And then I'm just wrapping my yarn and then pulling it all the way through. And I'm just slip stitching my work together. All right, so I have slip stitch seamed my little semicircle onto the rest of my little bee costume. Also, I think I might have forgotten to mention this, but this is gonna be the wrong side. And here you kind of see some more of my ends popping up, and then you see that this is the seam right here. So that's the inside of our work. So I'm gonna flip it and look at the pretty side. And then I'm gonna go ahead and trim off this yarn. Now you might be asking me why there's like a little bit of gap here, and that's because I'm actually going to be creating a border around the costume, just because I feel like it'll make it look kind of neat. I think that that'll be a nice little feature on it, but for now I actually want to finish up this is like towards his tail, right? And I want to create a panel here that will be for like clasping around his neck. Sort of thinking back on this, I feel like I could have done this in a way where I could have just started with this yellow panel and then gone down, but like, again, I'm freestyling this. I'm really like freehanding this, so I don't know. I am actually gonna go ahead and start creating some foundation half double crochets. So in order to do that, I made my slip knot. This will focus. And then I'm gonna go ahead and chain 3. So 1, 2, 3. Yarn over and then go through your first chain. But don't go just through the first little loop there, go through both, like the back loop and then the, you know, front loop. And then go ahead and pull up your yarn and then pull up another loop and then pull through all 3. And then I'm going to yarn over again and go through that loop that I made. Pull up a loop. Pull through all 3. If this is confusing, there are a lot of tutorials for foundation half double crochets, but I'm going to continue doing this, And I'm gonna measure it around Teddy's neck and see in comparison how much length I'm gonna need with this around his neck as well. So I've gone ahead and made 12 foundation half double crochets, and then I'm going to start off by half double crocheting into my first stitch here, and then yeah, I'm just going to continue across here and then make another foundation half double crochet of 12 stitches on this side, and I'm going to work up, let's start with 8 rows, and I'll tell you if I change that number or not. Okay, I'm really excited because I think I found a nice little way to create an antenna that will have some sort of structure. Obviously it'll flop around a bit as he walks around and plays and all of that, but honestly I'd rather the costume be a little floppy than it be too stiff and have like wires poking him and all that. But anyways, I've created this little like antenna rod thing. I think this is more like common when you create like crochet stuffed animals, but I've actually never created a stuffed animal, so this is kind of a first for me. But I went ahead and started a magic ring, and then I chained up 1, and then I created 6 single crochets into the ring. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep. And then I tightened it all the way, and then I slip stitched into the first little single crochet that I've made. And then from here, honestly, I really just like started making a bunch of single crochets just around the row, and it just started kind of making that upright structure. I'm very much like somebody who makes a lot of crochet wearables and not like the stuffed animals, and I think that this is more common in stuffed animal patterns, and I've never made one, so this is really new for me. Yeah, so honestly I'm like not even really counting my stitches or anything. I'm just going into the next stitch and creating a single crochet, and it's like creating a little rod just like so. So yeah, I'm just gonna keep going until I have a length that matches this. Okay, so as I was making the pom-pom, I was realizing that like as dogs play, because like dogs, you know, they get rough when they play, I was fearing like I'm such a like, I want my dog to be safe and I want all the other dogs to be safe too, and I was fearing that the yarn could be like pulled out of the pom-pom and like a dog could choke on a pom-pom, and I was like, that sounds like a nightmare. I don't want that. So instead I am going to create like solid little balls instead. So we're using a lot of the same techniques like throughout the wing, throughout the antennas, and now this little ball to go on top of the antenna. We're creating our magic ring, and then I'm going ahead and chaining 1, and I'm going to make 6 single crochets into the ring. Going ahead and tightening that all up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then I'm gonna go and chain or slip stitch into my first stitch, and then I'm gonna go ahead and go into my next stitch and give myself 2 single crochets, so in each stitch. Okay. So that's 12 stitches right there, and then in my first stitch here I'm going to create an increase, so go 2, and then only 1 in this one, and then 2 in this one, 1 in this one, 2 in the next one. It's kind of the same sequence as we did for the wings. Really, I'm just increasing this until I find a circle that I think is going to be a big enough size. Okay, so I've increased to 24 stitches, and I think that this is gonna be a big enough ball size. So I'm gonna go ahead and just create a few rows of 24. And you can see that it's sort of starting to curl in, and I'm gonna actually sort of curl it inward so that that's, you know, the inside, and then I'm looking at the prettier side. But yeah, I'm gonna continue creating this until I start seeing a little ball form. And I'm going to use my little stitch marker or my stitch counter in order to count how many rows I do. But yeah, I'm gonna be back and I'll show you how I decrease and close it off. Okay, so I've done 3 rows of 24, and now I'm gonna start decreasing. To decrease, we essentially increase from 6 to 12 to 18 to 24. And now that we've done 3 rows of 24 and I'm ready to decrease, we're gonna do that exact same sequence but backwards. So we're gonna go into the first stitch, pick up a loop, into the second stitch, pick up another loop, and then go through the first 2 loops. So that's 1 stitch, and that is 2, 3, and then make another decrease, 4, 5, 6, another decrease, 17, and then 18. And then now we're gonna start on our next row, which we need to decrease down to 12. So that's gonna be, oh, I also have some polyfill here that I'm gonna fill to like create the ball. Anyways, gonna go into the first stitch, pull up a loop, go into the second stitch, make that decrease, so that's 1, 2, decrease, 3, 4, decrease, 5, and then 12. And then from here we're going to be decreasing every stitch. So, and from here I'm just going to kind of pull out that yarn strand, go ahead and snip that off, and then I'm going to stuff some polyfill in here. Great and cool. And then I'm going to take a tapestry needle, go ahead and put that through my needle, and then I'm going to go like underneath each stitch that I have, so all 6 stitches, just to tighten it. And then you can start like tightening up that little ball so you can close it. And then from here, really, I just kind of like put my yarn through and secure it. So now you have nice little balls. And then now I'm just going to sew all of my parts together, sew some buttons on, and I'm done. Here is our little bumblebee. Oh my gosh. I don't think he's too happy about it, but I don't think he minds it either. That's a good boy. That's a good boy. Do you like your costume? You're a little bumblebee. Fly away, bumblebee, fly away. Actually, I don't think he really minds it. Oh, what a good boy. I have begun my flower set. As you can see, it definitely took me a while to like figure out sort of the color combination that I wanted to work with, but I think what I settled on in order to like really recreate the skirt set that I saw, I noticed that they were using 4 colors in total. 2 of them were like more like the brighter pink, purpley shades, and this is kind of what I had on hand. I had like a really nice purple and then like an orchid fuchsia color. And then I noticed that the rest of the flowers, whether it be the center or the petals, were made with like a cream or like an off-white color, which is why I chose that. And then in between all of the flowers, you just saw like almost peaks of like a doily pattern that was in a brighter white shade, which is why I chose the colors that I did. Obviously you can use different colorscapes, but I really wanted to recreate the set, so I tried to do it as best as possible with the yarns that I had on hand. Okay, so I've created kind of basically the front side of the skirt so far, and then I just need to create more flowers to cover my back side because I don't want it hanging out. But essentially what you see here are 1, 2, 3, 4 different flower types, and then the doily is like its own pattern. And so I have 4 different types of flowers that are kind of repeated over and over and over on the skirt. And I make color changes, so like if I can point this out. Okay, so like these 2 are the same exact pattern. It's just when I made the color change that differentiates them. And then like for example, these are also the same flower pattern. It's just when the color changes occur that kind of differentiates them. And like again, this is 3 colors, this is only 2, etc, etc. So I will show you how I create the 4 different flower patterns as well as the doily. And the color changes are all kind of random, honestly. Yeah, I think that on some of the bigger flowers I will do 3 colors, as you can see, but most of the time I do try to stick to 2 colors. So another tip that I have when sizing and creating fitted garments, and you can kind of see it because it's laid on top right now, but I like to use a piece of clothing that I actually already own, and lay whatever crochet piece I have on flat on that item in order to see that it is kind of fitting. So what I mean by that is that like I've laid down the crochet flowers, and honestly, like without having laid it down, I would have thought that I needed a lot more flowers than I actually do, but laying this down, you can kind of see that I actually have enough flowers to cover the front side of my skirt, which is great. And yeah, so generally like when fitting garments, if you're really unfamiliar with just like sheer measurements, I really recommend kind of basing it off of a pre-existing garment for you that fits you really well to begin with. Essentially, there's a lot of different flower patterns that you can utilize, and like different doily patterns, so it's very much like up to you, but to make it easy on me, I can kind of see in the skirt that they used differing yarn weights, but to make it easy on myself, I just went ahead and I'm using all cotton weight 3 light DK yarn, and a 4mm hook. If you really wanted to, especially with the doily part, I would probably recommend using closer to a lace weight or sport weight yarn, and a smaller hook, probably closer to like a 3mm or like a 2.5mm, and making like really delicate doilies that way. But honestly, I thought that the effect that I got using a thicker yarn and a thicker hook came out just fine, so I'm just gonna do that. Plus this is all yarn that I kind of already had on hand. I didn't want to go and buy a whole bunch of new yarn, so yeah, this is what I'm using. This is what you can do as well, but this just goes to show that like you can always change up hook size, yarn size. You're gonna have a slightly different result, but you can make it work. Okay, So I'll show you how I do the doilies. I think in total I am gonna have just about 5 doilies. And I kind of fit like an X small to a small standard skirt size. So yeah, if that gives you any clue or indication on sizing. But in order to make the doily, I'm gonna go ahead and start with a magic ring. So you grab your yarn like so, and then you wrap it around, make a cross, put your hook in and pull up. And then from here, you're going to chain 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then you are going to do 7 more double crochets. So this first chain counts not only as your first double crochet, but also your chain 2 gap. So to make a double crochet, you're going to yarn over once, insert your hook back into your magic ring, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and then you're going to chain 2, so 1, 2, and then you're going to repeat that 6 more times, so you essentially have a total of 8 double crochets. Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then after my 8th double crochet, I've also chained 2. And then I'm gonna go into the 3rd chain in my first sort of set of chains here. And I'm gonna go into that chain, and I'm going to slip stitch my work together. And I'm gonna go ahead and pull that end to tighten my little circle. And then from here, you are going to slip stitch into your first chain space. So this is a chain space. You're going to slip stitch there. And then you're going to chain 3, so 1, 2, 3. This counts as your first double crochet. And then you're going to insert another double crochet, chain 2, and insert another set of 2 double crochets in that chain space. Now you're going to chain 2, and in the next chain space, you're going to do the same thing where you insert 2 double crochets, chain 2, and insert another 2 double crochets. And now you're done with that chain space. So you're going to chain 2, get to the next chain space, 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets, chain 2. You're going to repeat that until you get back to your first set of chains. Okay, now I'm at my last chain space, so I'm going to go ahead, put in my 2 double crochets, 2 chains, and then 2 double crochets. And then I'm going to chain 2, and I'm going to go into the top of the chain that I made in the very beginning of this row and slip into that stitch. Cool, so you should be looking something like that. Okay, so now we are going to slip into this stitch right there, and we are going to make a shell stitch, which a shell stitch is going to be 2 double crochets, 3 chains, 2 double crochets, all in the same chain space. So what I mean by that is I'm going to go ahead and create 2 double crochets, so 1, 2, and then 1, 2, 3, and then going into that same chain space, I'm going to do 2 more double crochets. So as you can see, that is a shell stitch. I don't know what is in my yarn, a little fuzzy. Okay, and then we are going to chain 3, so 1, 2, 3, and you're gonna skip this next chain space. So you can start seeing that some of the chain spaces between the double crochets are flat versus kind of pointy, right? And so we are going to skip the next chain space, which is kind of the flatter one, and then we're gonna go into the more pointy one. That's 1, 2, and again we're doing a shell stitch, so chain 3, and then do another 2 double crochets. And then we're going to chain 3, so 1, 2, 3, skip the next one, go into the next one. And you're going to repeat this sequence until you get to the beginning of your row. Okay, so I've chained my last chain of 3, and then I'm going to go into my first double crochet that I've made here, and I'm going to go ahead and slip stitch that all together. So you should be left with kind of what I feel like looks like a snowflake. I think she's cute. But anyways, we're gonna go ahead and into the first chain space that we see here and slip stitch. And then from here, we're kind of essentially gonna do something really similar as the last round, just with a slight difference, okay? So we're gonna start off with that same shell stitch in this chain space. So again, that's 2 double crochets, 3 chains, and then 2 double crochets, all within the same chain space. And then we're gonna chain 3, so 1, 2, 3. This is the part that's slightly different from the last row. You see that flat edge we've got there? It's a lot more like obvious. If you didn't really see it in the last row, this one should be really obvious to you. This is where you chained 3 previously, and we are going to insert a single crochet in that chain space. And then we're going to chain 3, 3, and then we're going to go into that next chain space and create another shell stitch. And again, chain 3. We're going to go into that chain 3 space, and we're going to make a single crochet. Chain 3, and then make another shell stitch, and you're going to repeat this sequence until you get back to the beginning of your row. Okay, so this is my last chain 3 space, so that's my last single crochet, and then I'm going to chain 3, and then I'm going to go into that first double crochet that I made, slip everything together, and then you can snip off, you know, your extra yarn, and you have a cute little doily. Oh, there you go. You have a cute little doily. Honestly, the doily I feel like is more so used as a filler. And like, I'm honestly probably going to sew my flowers kind of on top of the doilies. So if they don't come out perfectly, don't stress about it. But yeah, that's how I make the doily. Okay, so now I'm gonna teach you how to make the largest flower size that I have. And this one, I think I did 3 colors. This one I also did 3 colors. For the rest of them, I'm probably only gonna do 2 out of honestly sheer laziness. But I will show you how I did it, and the color change you can do can be just this sort of like first row. It can also extend to the second row. The color changes are really up to you, and whatever you're feeling. I will show you how I do color changes in general. So I'm going to start off with a magic ring, so wrap that around, insert your hook, and then pull up your yarn. And I'm going to chain 3, so 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to insert 8 double crochets into my ring. 8 double crochets. And then I'm going to tighten up my ring as much as I can. And I'm going to go into my first double crochet and slip stitch my work together. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That'd be this one. And slip stitch that together. Kind of pull on that end as well. And from here, you can make your color change. I think I'm actually going to create the first 2 rows using this color. So what I'm going to do is chain 4, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we're going to use treble crochet, so wrap your yarn twice, so 1, 2, and I'm going to go into the sort of same chain that my chains are coming out of, the same stitch that my chains are coming out of. And then in between treble crochet pairs, I'm going to chain 2, so chain 2, yarn over twice, go into your next stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And then I'm going to go ahead and make another treble crochet stitch in that stitch, chain 2, and yeah, in every stitch I'm putting in 2 treble crochets, and in between the treble crochets I'm chaining 2. Okay, so I've made my last sort of cluster of treble crochets, and then you can always kind of do a sanity check by counting each pair. So you should have 8, because this is going to be an 8 petal flower. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then I'm going to go ahead into the top of my chains that I made and slip stitch my work together. And then from here I'm going to kind of pull it out a little bit and then snip off that yarn, because now that is kind of what you should have right now. That's these first 2 rows, and now I'm going to make my big petals using my cream colored yarn. So I'm going to go ahead and make myself a little slip knot. And then I'm going to go into any one of my little chain spaces that I have here. The only thing that I would note is that I would not necessarily go right in here, because I'm going to weave my ends in as I go, and I just find that if you start here, you're going to have 2 different ends to weave in, and it can look a little bulky. So I would recommend just going a couple chain spaces away from that, and then go ahead and put your slip knot on, and then pull it up and through, and kind of hold that end of your yarn close to your work. So we're going to chain 5, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we're going to do 3 double treble crochets. I think that's what they're called. I might be wrong, but anyways, the crochet stitch that I'm using is I'm essentially doing 3 yarn overs, so it's 1 more than a treble crochet, which I think is referred to as a double treble. I might be wrong though. But anyways, we're gonna yarn over 3 times, 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to insert our hook, making sure that we're kind of crocheting around that end. We're gonna pull up a loop. We're going to yarn over once more, pull through the first 2, yarn over to pull through the next 2, yarn over to pull through the next 2, and then yarn over to pull through the last 2. So again, 1, 2, 3, insert your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. 1, 2, 3. Yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over, pull through 2. Pull through 2. Pull through 2. And then we're going to chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Whoa. Whoa. 5. And then we're going to slip stitch it into that same chain space. So slip that together, chain 2, and then slip stitch into your next chain space. So go ahead and slip that, and then go ahead and chain 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3. And you are going to complete 3 double treble crochet stitches and chains of 5 surrounding them. And then in between each petal that you create, you're going to chain 2 and then slip into the next chain space. So you're starting to see petals form, and then you're going to repeat that sequence all the way around. And again, we've kind of arrived to where we have a yarn end, and so I am going to be crocheting that into my work. Just because I feel like when you do a lot of color changes and whatnot, you do tend to have a lot of ends poking out, and so if you can weave them in as you go, that makes your life exponentially easier. Okay, so this was my last petal, and then I'm gonna go ahead and chain 2 and slip stitch back into that first chain space, and then pull up some yarn and go ahead and trim that off. And it might be a little wonky looking at first, but you just kind of gotta like stretch it into place, if that makes sense. But yeah, that is how you create the large flower. Okay, so for this next flower, it's more like a medium to large size flower, and it's a 10 petal flower. And again, you can make color changes whenever you want. You can make it after the first row, the second row, you can make the whole flower in one color. It's really up to you. For this next one, I am going to show you it in my purple and my orchid color. So I'm going to go ahead and start off with a magic ring and pull up 2 chains. So 1, 2, and I'm going to insert 10 half double crochets into my ring. So to do a half double crochet, you want to yarn over once, pull up a loop, and then yarn over, and then go through all 3. So again, I'm going to insert 10 half double crochets into this ring. And I'm going to go ahead and tighten up my end here, and I'm going to go and slip stitch into my first half double crochet that I created. And from here, I'm going to give myself 4 chains. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to be working treble crochets, but they're all kind of connected together at the top. I'm going to start off with 2 yarn overs, just like I'm doing a treble crochet. So I'm going to insert my hook into my stitch and pull through 2, pull through 2. Now, do not pull through these last 2 yet. In fact, we're going to set up basically as if we're just making another treble crochet into the same stitch, and you're only going to pull through 2 and then pull through 2. So you should have 3 basically treble crochets and 3 loops on your hook. You're going to yarn over and then pull through all 3. So you have like a bundle of treble crochets here. So you chain 3 in between each like set of treble crochets. And then again, in the very next stitch, we are going to insert treble crochet without working the last 2 loops. Set up for another treble crochet, and you go through 1, 2, another treble crochet, 1, 2, and then you yarn over and then go through all 4 loops that you have. So again, chain 3 in between your treble crochet groups. But you're going to go into the next stitch, pull up a loop, pull through 2, and then pull through 2. Treble crochet setup, pull up a loop, pull through 2, pull through 2. Another treble crochet setup, pull through 2, pull through 2, and then pull through all 4. 1, 2, 3. So you're essentially going to create these treble crochet groups of 3 in each stitch, working 3 chains in between each grouping. Okay, so again, sanity check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And I'm gonna go into the top of my stitch here in order to slip stitch that together and complete that row. So here I'm gonna make a color change, snip that off. And I'm going to take my orchid yarn and make a slip knot. So again, I'm gonna go into a chain space here and then put my slip knot on and pull it up and kind of hold the end of my yarn so I crochet it in. And essentially here we are going to do a sequence of double, treble, double, treble, treble, double. Okay, so this first stitch I'm gonna work is gonna count as my double crochet stitch. So that's gonna be 3 chains, and then I'm going to make a treble crochet stitch into the same exact chain space. And then I'm going to yarn over 3 times in order to make a double treble. And then yarn over twice to make a treble. And then yarn over once to make a double. And from here, I am going to go into the top stitch of like this little bundle, and I'm going to go ahead and give myself a single crochet. Okay, so now we're going to go into the next chain space, and we're going to do a double crochet stitch, a treble crochet stitch, a double treble, a treble, and then a double. And then we're going to go into that top stitch right there and create a single crochet. And yeah, this is how you create your petals for this specific flower. So I've reached my last little petal, and I've gone ahead and made a single crochet. And then just to kind of finish it off, I go into my first little chain space here and slip stitch that all together. And from here, you can trim that off. And that is how you make the more medium-sized 10 petal flower. Okay, now I'm gonna show you how I make this 7 petal flower that has these really beautiful curved edges. Honestly, I think this is one of my favorite flowers. But anyways, I am going to start off with a pink center or an orchid center, and then I'm going to do the rest of my curved edges with the white or the cream color. You get it. So I'm going to start again with a magic ring, and I'm going to go ahead and pull up 2 chains. And I'm going to insert 14 half double crochets into this magic ring and slip stitch into that very first half double crochet that I created. And this one you gotta really, honestly, you really gotta pull on it to close up that circle. Okay, and actually for this one I think I'm going to just do the very center with this color. I'm gonna trim that off. And I'm going to take my cream colored yarn and make a slip knot. And I actually have to change my battery because it's dying. 1 second. Okay, so I am going to go ahead, kind of the same idea when I change colors and pull up a slip knot in any of like the chain spaces. I'm gonna go ahead and into one of my stitches kind of away from this end, so I can weave this end in first. I'm gonna pull up my slip knot, and I'm gonna go ahead and chain 1, and in that same stitch I'm gonna go ahead and give myself a single crochet, and then I'm gonna chain 2. And I'm gonna skip my next stitch and go into my next one and give myself a single crochet, chain 2, skip this stitch, go into the next one, give myself a single crochet, chain 2, and I'm gonna repeat that until the end of this row. So to do my sanity check for this one, I know that I'm working with a 7-petal flower. Essentially that means that I should have 7 of those chain 2 spaces. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then this will be my 7th. I'm going to go into my first single crochet that I made and slip stitch all of that together. And I'm gonna go into my first chain space and slip stitch into that. And I'm gonna go ahead and chain 3, so 1, 2, 3. And insert a double crochet into that same chain space, chain 2, and then do a double crochet pairing here, so 2 double crochets, and then I'm going to create 2 double crochets into the next chain space, chain 2, and then 2 double crochets in that same chain space. Going into my next chain space, I'm going to make 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets into that same chain space, and then moving on to the next. And then I'm going to go into the top of that first set of chains that I made and slip stitch my work all together. And from here, I'm going to go ahead and slip stitch into my first sort of chain space I see there. Give myself chain 3, and I'm going to work 6 double crochets into this chain space. And then I'm gonna go into the space that's sort of in between my 2 double crochets and then 2 double crochets, and then slip stitch in between those pairs. And then I'm going to go into my next chain space I see here and insert 7 double crochets. Again, going in between my pairs of double crochets. I'm going to slip stitch, and then in my next chain space I'm going to do 7 double crochets. Okay, Okay, so I've gone ahead and completed 7 petals, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and I'm gonna go ahead in between these 2 double crochets, slip stitch that all together, and pull out my yarn a bit, snip it, and you're done. That is how you create the 7 petal, or like medium sized flower. Finally, I'm going to show you how I create the smallest sized flower, which I believe is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, a 10 petal flower, but it's the smallest size that I have. And this one, I'm going to start off with a purple center. So again, make a magic ring. Pull up 2 chains. And insert 10 half double crochets into the ring. Okay, I'm gonna tighten all the way, and then I'm gonna go ahead and slip stitch to that first half double crochet. And from here, I'm going to snip off the purple because I'm gonna start using my cream colored yarn, and I'm gonna make myself a slip knot. And again, I'm gonna go into one of my stitches, pulling up that knot, kind of holding that end so I can crochet it in. I'm gonna go ahead and chain 4, and then I'm going to work a treble crochet into that same stitch. Chain 4, and slip stitch into your same stitch. And then I'm going to slip stitch into my next stitch, chain 4, and make a treble crochet into that stitch, chain 4, and slip stitch into that same stitch. I'm going to slip stitch into my next stitch, chain 4, treble crochet, chain 4, and slip stitch into that stitch. And you're really just going to repeat this sequence until you've made all of your petals. Okay, that was my last petal, so I'm gonna go ahead and trim that off. So you can see it kind of gets like bunched up, but what I kind of like to do is stretch out my little petals because they do get a little crushed while you're making it. But yeah, that is how you make the smaller 10 petal flower. At the very top, it has like a mesh section and then it's scalloped on top of the mesh. So I'm gonna take my orchid colored yarn that I have here, and I think I'm just going to start connecting the tops of my flowers. So like the first thing that you have to do is figure out the configuration of your flowers, and then I'm gonna take the tops of all of my flowers and just start at this flower, so where my slit is gonna be, and then go around in order to end here. In order to do that, I'm sort of imagining where that waistband is gonna kind of be, kind of start, you know? And I think I might start at like this corner here and just kind of pull up some yarn and then go ahead and like chain 1 and maybe make a single crochet in here, kind of holding my end so that I kind of weave it in as I go. I'm just gonna go ahead and start creating single crochets through the tops of the petals that is going to be at the is like the petals that are part of the flowers that are at the top of my skirt, if that makes sense. So yeah, okay, so yeah, I am starting to connect all of my flowers on the top row here, and once I do that, I will be back after I try it on too, to make sure that it kind of fits me the way that I want it to. And I'll probably honestly make the top waistband portion first and then connect the rest of my flowers. Okay, so I've grabbed a nice little tapestry needle and I'm gonna use my cream colored yarn. Okay, so in order to sew this all down, I'm going to kind of lay it flat and sort of see where I have a lot of ends as well. But honestly, I'm just gonna kind of ignore it and shove it to the back because I'm lazy. So I'm gonna go ahead and just start kind of sewing some of my strands together. And I definitely don't think that this has to be like perfect by any means. All the point is to just kind of secure this how you see fit. Okay, so I have sewed everything together, and what I think I'm gonna do now is add some little buttons. I found these little buttons that I had. They're little hearts. Aren't they so cute? I think I'm gonna add 5 of them. Just like somewhere here, I think. And then as for little buttonholes, I am just going to kind of put it in between like petals and whatnot. Okay, so when I'm making the heart-shaped flower top, I am using the same pattern for the 7-petal flower that I used in the skirt, so you can just refer back to that one. But I also make little hearts as well as smaller sized flowers. So I'm going to show you how I make those smaller sized flowers. First smaller sized flower we'll be looking at is this 2-color 5-petal flower. And to start off, I'm just going to go ahead and give myself a magic ring. And then I'm going to chain 2. 1, 2. And then I'm going to insert 10 half double crochets into my ring. So again, that's yarn over once, and then pull up a loop and go through all 3. So again, 10 of these. Okay, so I've made 10 and I'm going to tighten up that end. And then I'm also gonna go ahead and slip stitch into my very first stitch right here. Pull that out. And then we're going to trim this off. And then again, this is another thing that you kind of like mix and match colors however you see fit. But I'm going to go ahead and make a slip knot with my cream colored yarn. And kind of again, just using the same sort of methods, going a little bit away from this end so we can weave in ends better. And putting my slip knot on my hook and pulling that up. And I'm going to chain 3, so 1, 2, 3. And then I'm going to make 3 treble crochets into my next stitch. So again, a treble crochet is when you yarn over twice and into your next stitch, making sure to kind of crochet around your ends. Well, I hope that's focusing. So making sure to crochet around your end, but going ahead and doing that treble crochet. And you're gonna do 3 of them into this stitch. And then once you're done with 3 treble crochets, then you're gonna chain 3. And you are going to slip stitch into the very next stitch. And pull that all the way through. And then again, we're gonna chain 3, make, ooh, we're kind of getting to the part of my yarn that's like, it's just looking a little rough here. Okay. And then again, in the next stitch over, we are going to insert 3 treble crochets. And again, in the next stitch over, we are going to insert 3 treble crochets, chain 3, and then go ahead and slip stitch into your next stitch, chain 3, and you're going to repeat this all the way around your center of your flower. Okay, that's my last one, so I'm going to go back into where my first chain is kind of coming out from and slip stitch that all together. And there is your little 2-color 5-petal flower. Okay, next we're going to work on this 1 solid color 5-petal flower. And we're going to start off with a magic ring. Okay, so this is going to sound a little weird, but we are going to kind of hold our yarn. Okay, let me just show you this again. Okay, so this stitch is going to start off a little weird, just bear with me. We're going to start off with our standard magic ring, and we are going to pull up our yarn on our hook, and you're going to want to try to like almost hold that tension if you can. And you are going to insert your hook back into your ring and make a single crochet. So you're going to pull up your yarn and then pull through both little loops. And then you're going to chain 4, so 2, 3, 4. And then you're going to make 3 single crochets in 3 of those chains. So you're skipping that first chain, you're going into the second chain from your hook, and you're doing 1, 2, 3. And then in the front like legs of your single crochet that you made here, you are going to go underneath that leg and that leg, and you're going to slip stitch your work. So you should be looking like this, little finger coming out. And you are going to repeat that. So you're going to create a single crochet, chain 4, 2, 3, 4. Work your way down with single crochets through 3 of your chains. Slip stitch those 2 front legs of your single crochet that's in your ring already. And you are going to repeat this until you have 5 of them in your ring. Okay, so now at this point you're going to want to tighten that end. And these are the starting points of your 5 petals. Okay, so now we are going to work into that first sort of leg that we created. And you are first going to go into that very bottom stitch and slip stitch. And then we are going to create a half double crochet in the next stitch, which is right there. So half double crochet that stitch. And then we're going to go into the very next stitch and make a double crochet. And then in the top stitch here, we're going to go underneath that and create 5 double crochets. And then in the next stitch, we're going to do a double crochet. And then in the next one, half double crochet. And then the next one, we are going to slip stitch. So that is one of your petals. You're going to repeat that for every other leg that you've got. So again, we're going in that first stitch and we are slip stitching that. In the next stitch, we are half double crocheting. And then in the next one, we're going to do a double crochet. And then in this next stitch, under these two legs, we are doing 5 double crochets. Next one is double crochet. Next one is half double crochet. And the next one is a slip stitch. So you can start to see your little petals forming. Oop. Okay, so that was my last petal, and I'm gonna go ahead and snip off my yarn. And there you go. You've got your beautiful little 5 petal, I keep wanting to say 5 flower petals, 5 petal flower that is one solid color. Okay, with this tiny little bit of scrap yarn, I am going to make a mini heart. I'm going to show you how to make a mini heart and then a bigger heart, a medium-sized heart. So here we go. We're going to start off with another magic ring. As you can tell, the theme of this tutorial / video is just a lot of magic rings. You're going to get really good at them by the end of this project. And we are going to chain 2, and we are going to insert 3 treble crochets into our ring. So that's 1, 2, 3. And then we are going to work 4 double crochets. That's 4. And then you're going to work 1 treble crochet. And then you're going to do 4 more double crochets. And now we're going to do 3 treble crochets. I'm really playing yarn chicken here, but that is my last treble crochet, and then I'm going to chain 2 and slip stitch into my ring. And then you pull on your little magic ring end, and you just made a tiny little heart. Pretty simple, right? Okay, for the slightly bigger sized heart, the medium sized heart, you're going to start off the exact same way that you do with the mini heart. So I'm just going to go ahead and speed through that. So to start this off, we are going to single crochet into the chain 2 space that we worked in the previous row. It might be a little bit difficult to see, but if you kind of shimmy out your work, you'll see that there is a little gap here. So go ahead and single crochet in there. And in the first treble crochet stitch that we made, we are going to insert 2 half double crochets and then a double crochet. And then in the next stitch, we are going to insert 3 double crochets. So 1, 2, 3. In the next stitch, we are going to insert 2 double crochets. So 1, 2. And then in the next 4 stitches, we are going to just do 1 double crochet each. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we should be at the very pointy bottom stitch at this point. And in that stitch, we are going to insert a double crochet, a treble crochet, and then yet again another double crochet. So from here, we got to even out the other side of our heart, which means that we are going to do a double crochet in each of the next 4 stitches. That's stitch 2, stitch 3, and stitch 4. And then in the next stitch, we are going to insert 2 double crochets. Next stitch, we are going to insert 3 double crochets. And in the next stitch, we are going to insert a double crochet and 2 half double crochets. And then again, you're gonna wanna kind of like shimmy the chain 2 gap out, but in that gap, we are going to insert a single crochet, and then you are just gonna wanna slip stitch your work all together and pull out your yarn, trim it off, and you have now made a slightly bigger heart. Okay, so I've laid all of my flowers out in the configuration that I want to sew it in, and it's making a cute little heart shape here. It's not exactly symmetrical, and I think that that's the other thing about this particular pattern with this set, is that you don't necessarily want your flowers to lay symmetrical, and so I tried to like play around with it. Also, in terms of measurements, I went ahead and kind of measured the like how far I want the top, like from the longest end, to measure across on my chest. And for me, that is going to be about 16 inches. And so from here to here is about 16 inches as well. And now I'm going to sew everything together using my tapestry needle and some leftover yarn. And yeah. Okay, so my whole top is sewed together. Don't mind the ends. I'm going to clean it up later. But I just wanted to show you guys how I'm going to make my little straps. So you need a strap for like creating like a halter neck detail. I'm gonna go off of this petal and then this petal. You can already see that I actually already made this cord. And as for the waist, as far as I can tell, it's actually just one really long cord that is then kind of strapped through various petals in order to tighten it against the body. And it almost has like a corset detail in the back when it's tied. And yeah, so essentially you're going to be making 3 different cords, 1, 2, and then one really long one for the back. And I'll show you how to make the strap for the neck, halter neck portion, and then you utilize that same method to create a really long cord in order to strap it around your waist. And then you can just go ahead and thread that cord through whichever petals that you see fit. I would recommend like trying it on, most likely. I haven't made it yet, so I'm kind of like talking in future tense. But anyways, the method that I use, so there's a lot of different methods you can use when creating straps. There's less secure methods and more secure methods. I know that for people who have larger chests, they may want to have a little bit more of a secure strap, and this is actually a strap that is utilized in bags, and so I quite like it. It's like a braided cord method. I think it's stunning. But also, if this isn't enough for you, you can also look up various ways on how to create straps. Honestly, I am not very blessed in the chest department. And so because of that, in all honesty, I could really just get away with just making a straight up chain. However, I do think that the garment's not like heavy, but it does kind of weigh down. So I do just want a slightly more secure method of cording straps, if you will. So anyways, enough of my rambling. I'm gonna go ahead and go through my petal up here. I'm gonna create myself a little slip knot. Actually, I'm gonna do it a little bit up on my yarn so that I leave enough yarn that'll be easily thread through, so I can kind of clean up my ends here, because I do know that it is a little messy looking right now. But anyways, in order to create this braided cord, you are going to pull up your slip knot through, the point at which you need your next strap. And if I can get this out of the way, I'm going to chain 1. I'm actually gonna zoom you in so you can really see what I'm doing here. But I've chained 1, and then through the back stitch, or the back loop of the stitch, you are going to make another slip stitch. And now through this loop right here, you are going to insert your hook into that loop. Hopefully this focuses on the right thing. And then you're going to yarn over and slip it through. So you see this recent loop you just made? You're going to insert your hook under there and slip stitch. And this cording method is a lot easier, sort of the more chains that you make, in all honesty. You're just going through your previously created loop and slip stitching, and I think that that creates a beautiful braided detail. Here is the final product. I love how both of them turned out. I think Teddy looks absolutely adorable in his little bumblebee costume, and I think I look hot. And on top of that, I actually really like the flower set. I think that during warmer months, this set will be really cute together or even as separates. Definitely great layering pieces in my opinion. When we were asked about our Halloween costumes, we would always answer that he was the gardener tending to his flowers with a bothersome little bumblebee buzzing by. Anyways, if you enjoyed this tutorial, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I hope you're having a safe and happy Halloween, and I'll see you next time. Bye!